From Isolation Studios, it's Richard Krause.
Welcome everybody to In Isolation With, the talk show where we make a connection without actually making contact. I hope you're all doing well, feeling great, washing your hands, not touching your face, all the stuff that everyone is telling us that we're supposed to be doing. A little bit later on, we're going to introduce you to my very special guest today. It's Kristian Bruun. Now, you know him from playing Donnie in Orphan Black. You know him as Dave from Carter, starring opposite Jerry O'Connell. He comes to us from his home in Los Angeles with lots of fascinating insight into how the pandemic has affected the movie and television business. You want to hear this one. First up, though, I wanted to talk about this a little bit. I've been reading where there are people online objecting to the term social distancing. They are not objecting to the actual form of it, to social distancing, standing 6 feet apart from one another. It's the term. They say it's just distancing. There's nothing social about it. And I get it. And I kind of agree with them. But I have to say that when I'm out walking around down here, if I have to go to the grocery store or run an errand to get something essential to the running of the household over here, people on the street are keeping their distance. We're sometimes doing that sidewalk shuffle, trying to get out of one another's way, but we're nodding. And we're smiling, we're acknowledging one another, sometimes even exchanging a few words about just what a weird situation all of this is. And I think that that's important. I think that this distancing is important, and we're doing it. We're distancing, but we're doing it socially. And if we are all to get through this, in this strange time that we're in, I think that we really do have to find the little wins where we can get them. And perhaps the idea that we're not going to have our heads buried in our phones all the time, that we might actually acknowledge the people around us on the street, which frankly doesn't happen very often, or hasn't happened very often before this, where I live, just out on the street down here. I can't help but think that that's a little win. Maybe not such a bad thing in the midst of all the bad news that we hear every single day. Kristian Bruun, Donnie on Orphan Black, Dave on Carter. He has another web series coming soon called Avocado Toast. He is a very busy actor. At least he was up until the pandemic struck. Now, like the rest of the industry, he's sitting at home wondering what will happen next. Fascinating guy. Here's my chat with Kristian Bruun.
You have a ring light on as well. So
I know.
I'm trying to avoid having my eyes up too much.
Well, I've been trying, the old trick, right, is to do this.
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah.
It just looks weird to me now. And again, we're not making network TV here. So I think the ring light is going to just be part of the deal,
Right. And me, without someone doing hair and makeup is my stay-at-home look. And a mustache, too, because why not? So, this is me during quarantine.
My hair is getting a little bit out of control, and I'm not sure what to do with it. There's only so much gel that you can be using, or it's eventually going to just pop one day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mine's getting pretty frizzy now, and I would love a trip to the barber, but that will be a couple months down the road, I fear.
It may well be. Well, you're in Los Angeles.
I am, yes, yeah.
So when you look out the window, what are you seeing? Are people socially distancing? Are things the way we hear about them on the news? What's your observation?
When I look out the window, I see urban nature at its finest. I'm in my kitchen right now, and in my apartment building, it's a classic, almost like Melrose Place, like 2-story little courtyard with green in the middle, and my kitchen looks into the back alley, and which is not the best view, but I have a really beautiful green tree. Bright green tree outside my window, and since there is so much less activity out there right now, just before I got on the call with you, there was a very loud crow just making the craziest sounds that I hadn't heard before. And I'm like starving for nature at this point. So I was watching that crow thinking, I don't want to shoo you away for this interview. You're so lovely, but please go away. But even before that, on the weekend, a Cooper's hawk had caught a pigeon, and on the same branch, just that I could look at out my window, was eating this pigeon. It was a Cooper's hawk eating a pigeon And it was so visceral and so raw, and it was like watching a nature show. I couldn't stop watching it. I was like, nature's coming back in a major way around here. It's really cool to see, to be honest.
My brother told me that he found a flying squirrel in a tree just outside his house. I'm like, nature's taking over again. Now that we're not out there all the time, nature is slowly reasserting itself.
Totally. A buddy in my neighborhood saw a pack of coyotes just running down the street, which, I live near Griffith Park in Los Angeles, which has, tons of coyotes, and you have to be very careful with your dog if you have one. But they're coming back into the neighborhoods and exploring, because there's no traffic here. People are paying attention. Well, Californians adopted it early, which is good.
Well, that's almost post-apocalyptic, though. When you start to see coyotes in residential neighborhoods, that's like something out of like the Omega Man or something.
Oh, yeah.
So how are you making out? I mean, are you staying inside? You said Californians got on it early. Were you one of them? Were you one of them that just said,
I got in on it about a week before Mayor Garcetti in Los Angeles told everybody that we're shutting it down for a month. So I had a bit of a week head start with a lot of people as well. We're doing the same thing. Traffic was already dying down. So by the time the mayor came out and really locked things down, and also Governor Newsom in California, both of which I think have been doing a fantastic job getting information out and shutting things down the right way. I saw the signs coming and saw what was going on in New York and around the world. I mean, we in North America, we had Italy really to watch, and we were sadly very fortunate to have that as a sort of they were 2 weeks ahead of us or 3 weeks ahead of us. So the smart ones in the smart states and the smart people were the ones who looked at that and thought, okay, we got to make sure this doesn't happen, and took it seriously. And a lot of people didn't, and a lot of people still aren't. Like Michigan, people rallying in the streets to stop the stay-at-home order. I'm like, in 2 weeks, you got half of you are going to be very sick. This is crazy. This virus, it's not political. It's not a political virus. It's a virus. It doesn't care about any of that stuff. So you got to listen to the scientists.
I do, and it's funny. I interviewed a guy called Tim Caulfield the other day, and he's a law professor. He's got a list of credentials this long. I mean, I can't even go through them all. But he writes books as well about pseudoscience and disproving pseudoscience. And he says that one of the things that he hopes that comes out of this whole thing is that people finally reverse this trend that we've been seeing in the last number of years, where like, oh, who cares what the experts have to say? A bunch of eggheads. We don't trust science because I know better because I looked it up online. And I think that we might finally be able to break through that and move to a place where we become a fact-based society once again.
I hope so.
Now, you're an actor. You're in Los Angeles, home of probably 50% of the world's actors. Are you talking to people? What's the vibe out there? The industry has completely shut down.
Yeah.
What's going on in your community, in your acting community?
Well, I mean, the industry is still going in a few little pockets. I find I have a bunch of writer friends who still have writers' rooms that are going on, who are ramping up anyways for summer productions. So I feel like writers, if they're lucky enough to be in a writing room, still have something to do and a job to.
But they're writing remotely, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they're writing remotely. They're all writing from home, which is one of the lucky things for writers. And certain post-production can be done remotely. An editor can, work from home. They have the right equipment, obviously. So those pockets are kind of still going. But in terms of acting and a lot of the crews and certainly production offices, those are on pause, if not dead in some cases. So I've been in touch with a lot of my friends. We're all pulling our hair out, going a little stir crazy. We're a little bit more accustomed to long periods of time without work. I mean, that's just the nature of the job. And so, a lot of my actor friends said, well, I'm accustomed to staying at home all day and trying to, stay busy. So in that way, I was used to it. But at the same time, we're social animals. At the same, we want to be out there working with other people, and so I've found ways to do that through Zoom and through FaceTime and Google Meetup or whatever it's called. So a lot of friends of mine, we've just been doing play readings, going back and finding plays that we all love, and then sending digital copies so that we can read over Zoom, and we just kind of cast it and read the play, but also loosely go through it, between scenes, have a chat or catch up a little bit, and then, hey, let's read another scene. And it's the most fun, relaxing way to keep your kind of actor brain sharp in a little way. I've also been doing a weekly Shakespeare reading on Zoom with a cast, so we'll rehearse like just a 1 hour shortened version of a play, and we'll rehearse on a Tuesday and then read Thursday nights or Thursday evenings for a public Zoom call. I haven't gotten into Shakespeare in almost a decade. I haven't really done any Shakespeare in live until this year, so it's really nice to just find my way back to the classics.
Well, and do you think that this is something that moving forward might be something that continues after all of this? Do you think that it's possible that play readings could happen online? You could have the best actors from every city in the country all Zoom in at one time. Because I think if we're going to do this, if we're going to stay home, we have to learn something from it. We have to take something away from it and maybe find some new cool stuff that we haven't thought about before.
Absolutely. I think that would be wonderful. I mean, I would tune into a broadcast that has, fantastic actors from around the world doing a reading. I mean, that would be just amazing. I don't need to see a live version of Grease on stage. I'd rather see that. Yeah. Actors in their homes reading from a script, and it doesn't have to be trying to replicate theater. A reading of a play is not theater. Theater is visual as well as audio. And when you're reading, you're still having the audience do so much of the work. And it's hard listening to a play. But it's a different beast altogether, and I would love to see more of it. Sadly, I also think that human beings are very good at getting complacent about things, or as soon as it's over, just being so joyed to get back to life that we'll forget a lot of some of the innovative ways that we have kept up with each other and also just kept ourselves busy. But I do hope that, I hope personally that I come out of this, reading more plays, because it's been really nice to go back and read the classics. But also, I hope I continue to cook as much as I've been cooking, and also doing dishes as much as I've been doing. But, I've discovered baking like everybody else, but, I've always been scared of it. And I'm like, well, time to experiment. So I'm trying all this stuff out that I've been meaning to and haven't been doing. And I hope I definitely keep doing that. And I hope other people do too.
You talk about baking. You cannot buy vanilla extract or yeast anywhere in Toronto.
Anywhere. You can't down here either. I've looked on Amazon. I've looked everywhere. I might have to make my own sourdough starter just to have something that I can use as yeast.
Apparently, no. If you had asked me a month ago what that means, I wouldn't know. Now, because of Facebook, I know all about it. And apparently it smells a little bit, but it's not that hard to do.
Yeah, it's got to have that sour, funky smell to it. But I love sourdough. I'm a little nervous trying to make sourdough, but certainly I want to start with just basic bread, and I need that damn yeast. I can't find it anywhere.
What kind of films do you think and television shows will come out of this?
Well, there is a CBC fund that's just been set up that a bunch of friends have come to me about, and I'm talking with people trying to come up with different ways of exploring how to navigate our way through this fund. But CBC is getting behind, and I by no means didn't come on here to talk about this, but I find it quite interesting that they're trying to find ways to fund productions that fall under the guideline of social distancing. So they want to find a way to create content that is a little bit outside of the box and, done on an individual basis, whether that means each person, doing their own camera and lighting and, makeup or hair, themselves, and someone else editing, and trying to find a way to create content in this weird time that we don't know how long it's going to last, or we're going to have waves of it. So, we're in a social distancing now that might ease off in a month, but then there will be a second wave of the pandemic and we'll have to go back into it. And I don't think people quite realize that yet. And that's going to have a huge impact on regular production schedules. So it's interesting to see production companies and CBC and people trying to find ways to combat that. It's like we just don't know what's going to happen. We just don't know the timeline. So they're trying to find ways to foolproof production and come up with something a little bit different. And I think that's genius. I think that's very interesting. We're also going to see like a ton of really bad short films that every lonely, actor or writer or director thinks is really great, of, a lonely person in their apartment doing crazy things. Like there's already some coming out, and
there's already some. I'm being pitched movies for review, and this isn't like just this week. Like 2 weeks ago, when I had been self-isolated, I think at that point for about 3 weeks, maybe 3.5, 4 weeks, I started getting pitched these movies about there's 5 people on an elevator, one of them has a cough, and we've already shot it, and it's a horror movie. Or there's all kinds of zombie movies, the coronavirus zombie movies that I've been pitched. So yeah, there's a lot of that. I think we're in store for a lot of that. I hope that the level is pushed up a little bit from that.
Yes, I would rather see writing that focuses on some of the themes that we're experiencing as human beings in this weird time, and less so the hitting the nail on the head of the actual literal pandemic or someone coughing. I want to know, we can all relate to isolation, we can all relate to loneliness. These are themes that have carried us through so many amazing films in the past, and plays and stories. It's further exploration of that, and if anything, it gives us as artists and human beings just a better understanding of our own loneliness or isolation, or whatever it may be that you're experiencing, anxieties, because we're all having good days and bad days. I have days where I'm so anxious and I have to like meditate or do things like work really hard to just calm myself down. And then there's other days where I feel fantastic. It's because we're going through an unprecedented time. And these are the themes that I want to see people deal with their writing and with their art, and less so the, literal aspects of this strange time.
When all this is said and done, is there another season of Carter coming, or Avocado Toast? What's happening with the shows? You're on a ton of stuff. You're working.
Yeah. I've been very lucky. It's all in the air. It really is all up in the air, Richard. I don't know if Carter's going to get a third season. If we were, it would have been filming this summer, and that would certainly not happen. We've switched channels that were within the US, and I think that announcement's coming soon, so I won't spoil where it's going. But it is going to be on a very watchable place for people in the United States, which is great, and gives me hope that perhaps we can get a third season out of it. But even then, it wouldn't be until next summer. And the reality of it is, you got to find work before then. So Avocado Toast is a digital series that's going to be coming out. Actually, it's also on Out TV, but it'll be coming out, I believe, in May. But certainly everybody is trying to roll out their content on a digital platform so that people can easily watch it. And, everybody's looking, all the providers are looking for content right now, and there's only so much of it out there. So the stuff that's being finished right now is going to get more accessible to people very soon. But in terms of finding another season of it, that all comes down to A, if people like it, and B, when production reopens. There's so many things that the film industry has to fix before we can open. Things that have been done in the past that I think were really, just waiting for a disaster to happen. The way, even on set, how we do craft services and how, you have to feed 100 people because we're working all day, cast and crew. And, you have food laid out on a table in the corner of a dusty studio and people putting their hands
Right.
I'm going to grab some almonds instead of using the spoon to like get their almonds, or the little cup. And, people have been calling out how nasty film sets or how gross the bathrooms are, in some of these studios. I worked in some studios that were just so dusty that everybody was getting sinus infections or colds. And as soon as a cold hits on set, boom, 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 it spreads like wildfire. Also, as an actor, if you're doing scenes where you have to kiss another actor, I mean, you can't fake it. It's, and if someone is sick, what do? And there's so many things that Hollywood has to look at on a macro level before they can even go through how we're going to reopen on a major level. And also the whole notion of we could open up, we'll have all these scripts and shows and things ready to go, but we still have to cast. So I have done a few auditions during this time, but it's for work that is slated for like end of June, which they figure is safe. But those productions could open up and within 2 months have to shut back down again. And who knows how they're going to get insurance for those productions if insurance companies are like, whoa, no, we don't know what's going to go on. So the next production could be very different until we get a vaccine for this thing, which is like a year down the road, which is scary.
Apparently there was something that I didn't know was that common, but people get on film sets and things, they get virus insurance.
Right, yeah.
That apparently they're saying will just be impossible to get.
Oh, for sure. Right. Yeah. So it's really, we don't know. We're still in this limbo period of we don't know what the hell is going on. We don't know when or how or in what manner the world will go back to normal. And until then, I can guarantee you no production company is going to take the risk to open up a production until we are in a very solid, in the clear. But in the meantime, we're going to have so many scripts ready to go that as soon as things are lifted, it's going to be a sprint. And, I'm hoping there's going to be a lot of casting for a lot of people and a lot of jobs for a lot of crew that are hurting right now. It's scary to think that this could go on for a year and really affect production that long.
Yeah, well, my fingers are crossed. I say that we just have to do what we have to do until it's done. I've stopped thinking about an endpoint so much as I am just thinking about this is the way life is now.
Yeah.
It was different in the before time. Now this is the way life is for the next little while, and then and it is a hardship, and the restaurant businesses and small businesses are being devastated by it, and I understand that. But for now, until we stop the transmission, unfortunately, I think this is the way it has to be.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see the articles out there talking about how this is going to really shift the politics in the world, and how the labor movement is going to really rise up to protect workers, and unions are really going to be on the uptick. And it's going to be fascinating to see how things play out the longer this goes. And you can see the politicians, certain politicians, extremely fearful of having a stalled economy and just desperately wanting to open the economy. But at the end of the day, the longer you take, or the less time you take to sort of socially distance and really beat this virus back, the longer it's going to take for you to get your economy back going. And I don't mean to get political on this, but it's a virus. It's not political, and we just have to do what the scientists tell us, really. I mean, they're the ones who have the knowledge on how to fight this.
Well, you seem to be making out well. If you could get yeast and sourdough, it may be better, but you seem to be doing well.
I'm surviving. It's a weird time. I've certainly had like upticks of anxiety and like mini panic attacks and loneliness and all the things that I think everybody out there is feeling in some, on some level. But I've had some great days, and I've enjoyed all the movies and TV that I've been catching up on, and I've been enjoying kind of solitary walks when the sun comes out, which luckily in California it's back. We had a couple weeks of just heavy rain, which actually helped keep people indoors, which was a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I often said
don't like weather.
If this happened during the winter, it would be easier to self-isolate because in
For sure.
Canada, we
Yeah.
do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of us do it. Okay, my last question here. How
Sure.
would Donnie Hendricks from Orphan Black cope with the lockdown, cope with self-isolation?
He would have been one of those panic buyers at Costco with like a cart full of toilet paper and hand sanitizer and just cans of chunky soup and chips, and he would not fare well. Allison would do a great job. She would be very well organized. She would have lots of masks. She would be making so many masks right now in the craft room and like donating them to the community center. And Donnie would just be like freaking out, drinking beers, watching golf in the basement, just like totally in fear of the apocalypse. He would be falling apart. Allison would do great. Donnie would do terrible.
Well, Kristian, I'm so glad that you took the time to do this, that you're doing well. The next time you're in Toronto, let's have a Negroni.
Oh my God, that would be great. I would love that. I dream of those days, Richard.
We'll do that. Thanks so much, Kristian.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
That was Kristian Bruun. What a treat to speak with him. If you haven't seen Orphan Black, check it out. You've got lots of time now to binge the entire series. It is so worth it. Also, look for Kristian in a movie called Ready or Not. Really fun little horror movie. It's kind of funny, kind of scary, kind of smart, all kinds of awesome, and he's great in it. So have a look for that on VOD, wherever you legally download or rent movies. I want to say before we go that I saw this picture online and I just had to share it with you. So have a quick look and tell me what you see. Okay, when I first looked at it, I saw a woman doing the right thing. She's protecting her face, and by protecting her face, she's protecting all of us around her. That's the thing that you have to do. Now have a closer look at the picture, and I think you'll see she's actually doing two things. She's doing the right thing, wearing a very protective mask, but she's also recycling, because for all the world, that looks like a plastic salad container to me. I don't know. I thought it was all kinds of awesome. Found it online. If you find anything online that you think might appeal to me or might be fun to talk about here, get in touch with me via Facebook, Richard Krause, or via Twitter, @RichardKrause. Until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and we'll talk to you again soon.